Henry Richardson's Gate Lodge, here at Langwater, the estate of Frederick Lothrop Ames. The Gate Lodge, considered by many to be the masterpiece of Henry Richardson, was built in 1881. Probably the Gate Lodge reflects the personality and the inner desires of the architect more than any other work that Richardson ever built. If we think of this work in 1881, we have to consider the very uniqueness of the place. A Frank Lloyd Wright almost. A very, very unusual building for its time. One of Richardson's biographers called it a glacial moraine, roofed over and made habitable. Another said there would be a perfect home for an Icelandic hero. A gate lodge. Really, it's a house and a barn. But more than that, Frederick Lothrop Ames, who lived on the estate here, Langwater, had 6 children. His oldest, Oliver, was a student at Harvard. And when Oliver came home weekends with his friends, they sort of took over the old mansion up at Langwater. So the Gate Lodge was a way that Frederick Lothrop Ames could exile his son to another part of the estate. So his directions to Richardson were make a bachelor quarter, make a gate. We see the influence of Olmsted here with the bridge-like appearance with the large Norman arch over there with the long meadow sandstone. And then we see these enormous boulders, the largest ones at the bottom and the smaller ones as it gets higher. It doesn't give the appearance even of smaller rocks at the top until you really look at it. And then, of course, rammed into the roof are these curious little eyebrow windows peering out. Here we are on the Elm Street side of the Gate Lodge, the forbidding side, the side that says this is the wall that separates the outer world from the inner world. And here, as we stand on the west side, we can see the large overhang that Richardson had over the window, so that when the sun was setting in the late afternoon, it wouldn't come into the large room on the upstairs and get in the eyes of the people there that were having their late afternoon tea parties or whatever. The glassed-in area on the back here was originally an open porch, which is now enclosed. Let's take a look around the Gate Lodge, and let's walk around slowly and see some of the elements here that make this a true masterpiece of Richardson. One of the features of the Gate Lodge is this well on the outside with a tile roof that goes up 2 stories over it. The person wanting the water has but to lower a bucket down through the from that stone porch right down into the well at the bottom. A bucket can get down there, but no human can. The only way to get from the lower story to the upper is a circular staircase in the front. Gate Lodge is essentially 2 main rooms, one in the downstairs, one in the upstairs, and a variety of servants' rooms. Of course, the bachelor, Oliver Ames, who lived there, would want to spend a lot of his time in the upper room, and up there, a beautiful fireplace rivaling the one in the library, designed by Augustus St. Gaudens with beautiful carvings on it, and a bronze firewall coming out at right angles with enough room for a seat for two, and facing that, a chaperone seat in the upstairs room. And then bedrooms in the upstairs, some 5 of them. And the downstairs, a large room, paneled with oak, and then servants' quarters, which you see here along the ground floor. This is the residence area of the Gate Lodge. And whatever happened to the dark, forbidding, keep-out Gate Lodge that we saw from the front? Now we have the warm, welcome, come inside in the back with a little porch here and the door entering right into the main room of the downstairs. And we see the eyebrow windows up there and the huge chimney, which has a multitude of fireplaces off it, both upstairs and down. Now we will go from here to take a look at the total part of the Gate Lodge from this south end of the Langwater Estate. The main feature of the Gate Lodge is the gate. Why, one person said, it's a bridge. And I suppose it is, except for the fact that you can't get there from here. You can't get from one side of the Gate Lodge to the other by crossing through the top. They are divided. The left part is the living quarters, and on the right side here, or the east side, is a large open area which was essentially a barn, and we'll show you the barn door in a minute. That conical roof up there, that witch's roof, is entirely open space underneath, and this was a wintering quarters for plants to get them in out of the weather and store them. Has a dirt floor. Sometime in the early 1900s, Mrs. John Ames had built inside here a large room with a library and shelves and a beautiful fireplace, and a place where she could just escape and get away from the hubbub of the estate further back. And she apparently spent many happy hours in this side of the Gate Lodge, which is off limits. The grounds of the Gate Lodge were landscaped by Frederick Law Olmsted, Richardson's collaborator in all of his work here in Northeastern. And we see the grounds today probably at the best they've been in several years. There's a grounds crew has been very active here in the last few weeks, and the place is well nigh immaculate. We're going to take a look beyond this apple tree here at a row of windows which would be invisible in about 3 weeks, and we'll get another view from beyond the trees in a minute and compare this row of windows with the row of windows that Richardson put in the library. And we'll see that they admit light where light is needed for the wintering quarters, and give a great deal of spaciousness on the inside. Also notice the tremendous size of the boulders along the base, interrupted by the sandstone. A good view here of the windows. comparable to the windows set in the library, except of course that in the library he used a lot of decorative elements around the windows, and here Richardson is at his functional level where the windows are going to let in light, and the boulders and the natural materials are featured. The house and a barn simplification of the gate lodge. We see the barn door over here on the right, into which sleighs and all kinds of wintering plants can be drawn. And of course the tile roof of the place, which is in mint condition right now, very, very very, very fine roof here. The gate lodge seems to just rise up out of the ground. Large rock pile. And yet it has a tremendous warmth to it. At the same time having a tremendous amount of majesty. Richardson scholars like this building as a representation of the architect better than they do his massive Trinity Church in Copley Square, because at Trinity Church, Richardson was at this point still wondering, still experimenting with who he was, what was his statement. That was in 1876, and by 1881, when this building was built, Richardson was quite sure of what he wanted to do. Some people have said that one of the secrets of the success of this building was there wasn't anybody there telling him that they had to have a kitchen in one place and a closet here, and it's true, it wasn't designed by a woman, and they'll tell you that there's a lot of shortcomings inside, but maybe that was the secret of Richardson's architectural success here, that he was given a free hand to do what he wanted. A real close-up of the large boulders and the barn door surrounded by its sandstone, and the arch over the door. Not as pronounced as the large Syrian arch, which we can see over on the left. Gate Lodge also offers us an interesting question. Up at the library, we see the door to the front off to the left. In Oaks Ames Hall, we look at the doors and say, which one goes inside? Where's the front door to the Gate Lodge? Well, that'll have to remain a mystery, but we'll look at some possibilities. Now we're going to show you some close-ups of the stonework here. Stonework was an art, and 100 years ago, the stonemasons were here that knew how to accomplish that art. In all the pictures I've ever seen of the Gate Lodge, none have ever featured a profile of it. There are probably as many old men of the mountain here, as you'd want to imagine as you look across the texture of the boulders protruding from the wall here on the east side of the barn end here. In the background, a large circular staircase actually is contained by that large pile of stones on the other side of the gate. We'll get a closer look at that in a minute. Now, which one is our front door? Well, I suppose this is one of the best of the Richardson's mysteries. Any one of them could be a front door as we look at it. I suppose if you were going to go to a party here, you might just give up and go in the back door. The staircase to the upstairs is contained in the off to the right of our picture here. There's a narrow slit of a window that gives light to the staircase as it circles around and goes into the second floor. And the windows to the left of that light up the hall near the staircase. Now let's take a look under the large gate, or under the huge arch. If you are some Norse god, this is probably your ideal home, and you might have made it by just throwing these rocks together to form your lair. Richardson himself was some kind of a Norse god, or a god as far as the use of stone was concerned. He was the last architect to use stone as the structural element in his buildings, with steel following him. And here we see the ultimate in the use of stone for a home. A close-up here of the large Syrian arch that is the symbol of Richardson's work here in Northeastern and also elsewhere. But here there's absolutely no apology for the arch. It's a bold statement of what he meant here, and making this the entrance to his friend Frederick Lothrop Ames's estate. Richardson and Frederick Lothrop Ames were classmates at Harvard, and as a member of the prominent Porcellian Club, Richardson was able to meet not only F.L. Ames, but many other people who would later be his clients and use his services for their homes and their charities in northeastern United States. The gateway to what? Well, Langwater was and is a large estate, some 160 acres or so, that Frederick Lothrop Ames put together for a large family he had. The main house of the estate was built in 1859, before Richardson had set up practice or anything. And here, by the time Frederick Lothrop Ames had the Gate Lodge built, there was quite an established estate in here with large greenhouses, large stables, a good-sized working farm, and Oliver, being the oldest son, got to live his weekends down here before, in the early 1890s, a large piece of land on the south side of Elm Street was bought by F.L. Ames and made into the sheep pasture estate for Oliver. So Oliver went from the gate lodge to sheep pasture. The best time to look at the gate lodge is right now, before the leaves pop on these apple trees and obscure the lines of it totally. So here, as spring is breaking and the blue jays are screaming, we'll see the last good view of this unusual house until the end of October, when again the lines of the gate lodge will come into view. Frederick Lothrop Ames was the only son of Oliver Ames, second of that name, the Oliver Ames in whose memory the library was built. Frederick Lothrop Ames was the moving factor behind the library, the first president of the Northeastern Savings Bank, the director of 52 railroads, the richest man in New England at the time he lived, left an estate between $25 and $45 million. He owned most of Boston at one time. His Boston home on the corner of Commonwealth Avenue and Dartmouth Street is today a national landmark of Victorian architecture. They even make paper models of it. And yet, here at Langwater, his greatest legacy, aside from the gorgeous open space that still exists here, is giving Henry Richardson a chance to build this unique house that bears the stamp of Henry Richardson more prominently than probably any other building that Richardson accomplished. So Frederick Lothrop Ames, in the entrance to his mansion, was leaving something for architecture and for art far greater than he had in his mansion further on down in Langwater, or even his Boston home. He was a remarkable man, and it was a remarkable time, and we're very happy that F.L. Ames knew Henry Richardson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hill, for giving us a beautiful, beautiful description of the Gate Lodge today. Beautiful. Thank you. And I think people appreciate it too. Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Well, you're welcome, Andre. And I hope that now when people go by on Elm Street, this beautiful home here, they'll know a little bit more about what they're looking at.
Thank you. And watch us next week with another beautiful program. Thank you very much.
This is Melissa. She has cerebral palsy. At this time, there is no cure for this crippling disease. All we can do is to try and prevent it. Every year, over 250,000 babies are born in the United States with a birth defect. That's 1 out of every 14. Low birth weight is the most common condition that contributes to these devastating statistics. Through education and research, prevention of birth defects has been the goal of the March of Dimes for more than a quarter century. On April 25th and 26th, the March of Dimes is holding their annual 30-kilometer Walk America Walkathon in 24 different locations throughout eastern Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Your support is needed. For more information on this winning event, please call this number, 947-1519, and thank you for your support.
Thank you! Thank you! Turpentine and batteries, oven cleaner, motor oil, paint thinner, drain cleaner, acids and paint. Turpentine and batteries, oven cleaner, motor oil, bug killer, weed killers, all our poisons too. Stop.
Household chemicals can become hazardous waste. Read the labels before discarding. If possible, take them to a household hazardous waste collection center.
Thinner, drain cleaner, acids and paint.
You can help close dangerous toxic waste dumps where thousands of gallons of acids, turpentine, weed killers are seeping into the soil and water. To protect your environment, don't pour leftover household chemicals in the sink. Follow disposal instructions on the labels. Keep old batteries and oil-based paints out of the trash. Help organize a community hazardous waste collection day. You can close those dangerous toxic dumps. When you change your oil, don't dump it. Take it back where you got it.
Hey, Fozzie, it's really nice out here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Back to nature, huh?
Yeah. Hey, did you catch anything yet?
Wait, I think I got something. Yeah, Kermit, I got... Kermit? That's the third can I caught today. How'd those things get in there?
Well, people sometimes wander by and just toss stuff into the water. And there's a lot of other stuff that people put in there that you can't see. That's what pollutes the water, you know?
Why would they do that?
I don't know. I guess people just don't think about it.
Well, don't they understand how important clean water is to fish in and to swim in and to make a decent glass of lemonade with?
Yeah, we all forget sometimes. Water is something we have to conserve and keep clean.
Sounds easy enough.
You know, if you'd like some free tips from my friends at the National Wildlife Federation on how you can use water wisely, write to Kermit, National Wildlife Federation, Washington, D.C. 20036.
Who are you talking to?
The announcement you are about to hear will help you greatly in selecting an automobile.